Right. Today, I want to talk about something important, what to expect from Japan's new leader. Okay, so basically, last Friday, we had the Japanese elections. Now, this is not the nationwide elections, but an internal elections among the ruling party to choose the leader, the new leader for Japan, i.e. the Prime Minister. Okay, so that party is what they call the LDP, the Liberal Democratic Party. So what happened on Friday, the LDP elected former Defense Minister Shigeru Ishiba as the country's new Prime Minister. Ishiba's victory signals a potential shift in both Japan's monetary and foreign policy, with the global community watching closely to understand how this administration will differ from previous leadership. Now, on to discuss based on two areas. One, like I mentioned earlier, monetary, and then we're going to go to the foreign policy. From the monetary policy perspective, leading up to his elections, Ishiba outlined a monetary policy approach that marks a departure from ultra-loose monetary strategy pursued by his predecessors. He endorsed the Bank of Japan policy of gradually raising interest rates. He expressed a concern over the prolonged depreciation of the yen. This positioned him in stark contrast to his opponent Sanae Takaichi, who supported maintaining ultra-low rates to stimulate economic growth. Okay, so this is one particular change. Now, the second thing is that Ishiba's criticism of the BOJ's negative interest rate policy, a key component of former Prime Minister Shinzo Abe's Abenomics, suggests that he may adopt a more traditional conservative approach to monetary policy. This could include steering the country away from excessive reliance on quantitative easing and towards a strategy that focuses on stabilizing the yen. Okay, so if Ishiba moves forward with policies that strengthen the yen, because all this, whatever is mentioned earlier, this are policies that would strengthen the yen. It could have significant implications for Japan's trade and investment dynamics. A stronger yen would make imports cheaper, but also impact the competitiveness of Japanese exports, potentially affecting key industries. So in the short term, his victory has already caused a market reaction. The dollar-yen pair dropped over 400 pips following the announcement, indicating investors' expectation of a shift in Japanese economic strategy. The market will be keenly observing the openings of the trading week on Monday to assess whether this trend will continue to stabilize or stabilize, right? So what we want to see, what we want to know today is that when in probably in about 20 minutes when the US market opens, what is the reaction? And that will carry forward until tomorrow's opening for the yen. And we shall have a better understanding. So if it's meant to come down today, what we're going to see is that it carried it down, it consolidates before another push down. So this probably will be a very mini consolidation before a push down. So if we don't see this particular pattern, then it could be something really, really different in the market. Probably we'll be seeing the dollar versus the yen go up first before coming down. Okay, but in the longer term, yes, I do expect the dollar yen to strengthen versus the dollar. Okay. Now, there are things that we also need to understand, that the challenges Ishiba faces is balancing this shift with Japan's long-standing economic issues, including low inflation and stagnant wage growth. Now, these are just only has only started to change. But if you look at the overall, what we call wages and the overall inflation in Japan, actually, it's much, much lower compared to the rest of the leading economy. So if his policies result in too rapid a strengthening of the yen, it could negatively impact corporate profits and by extension, the broader economy. Thus, his approach will require careful calibration to avoid disrupting Japan's recovery from the pandemic-induced downturn. We are already seeing this at the current moment. If you look at the Nikkei today, it's not is just showing that, the market's actually reacting to the situation in Japan where, they are they worried and that, his policies could actually affect the economy. So that's why, from the get-go on Friday, you actually saw the Nikkei 225, right? It dropped from about 39,900 plus change to a low of 37,200 plus change. So this is one that, then again, like I said, the follow-up price action, that is crucial for us to know. But this is something that Ishiba needs to really plan it and plan it well. Now, one thing's clear about Ishiba's direction, because of his background, is from the foreign policy. Now, as for the foreign policy front, his background as a former defense minister informs his support for stronger U.S. Japan security ties and the development of a more capable Japanese military. However, the concept of an Asian NATO introduced complexities into Japan's regional diplomacy. China and Russia may view this initiative as an attempt to contain their influence, potentially straining diplomatic relations. Such perceptions could make China less willing to engage in discussions over territorial disputes in the South China Sea or Japan's broader strategic interests in the region. Okay. Now, Ishiba has also emphasized, they don't want to step on this landmine. Because he said there's also is important, the importance of diplomatic engagement is still there, advocating for increased dialogue with China and Russia to ease tensions. But nevertheless, when you talk about NATO, is quite a sensitive thing, and we have already seen, the Ukraine wanted to join NATO, were one of those trigger, things that actually triggered the Ukrainian war with Russia, right? So not only that, if we talk about the Asian NATO, we're going to provoke a negative reaction from North Korea, potentially leading to a further hardening of its military posture. This could make diplomatic negotiations even more challenging, raising the risk of escalating regional tensions. We don't need all this because we already have wars going on in the Middle East, and then we have the Ukrainian war. You add this into the Russian, the Asian skirmish, that's not going to help. Okay. Now, another concern that we have is the impact of this policy on Japan's economic relations. Several Asian nations have strong trade ties with China and may find themselves caught in a difficult position if we want to talking about joining Asian NATO, because they need to balance their economic interests with security concerns. If Japan pushes forward with an Asian NATO, these countries may face pressure to choose sides, which could affect regional trade and cooperation. So it's not that easy. It's an idea, nevertheless, but it's not going to be easy unless you want to step on the China and Russia still. So that's a different case. You better be prepared for that. Okay. So with that, that's the report for today. Let's jump into the charts.